Evening, everybody.
Hello.
Hey, Walter. Representative Roy is actually the vice chair of the ED&A committee, so he's probably our best bet on the on that one, which I think is that's tomorrow's hearing, right?
Yes, I think Senator Reagan's a vice chair on the finance committee.
Okay. Well, those are both helpful. I haven't had a chance to reach out yet, but I think as many of us as possible to zip something off to them is a good thing.
Yeah, it's fairly simple to do the
Yep.
way they set up online. You can either sign up to just support or just you can testify.
Yep. Great.
It's an important one. I don't know how much how much weight it's going to carry, but it's been a long time since we lost that 30% that the state used to pay.
I think any chance we got to stop the downshifting of what used to be a state finance issue to the municipalities, that's a good thing to do.
You turn the bath water around. What is it?
Colleen, so,
How do I mute myself?
You're noisy and sideways, Colleen.
oh, there you go. Oh, Pam too. She's back.
Gosh, Brownie, why is it so noisy at your house?
Okay, do we have everybody? Let's see, Matt, Beth, Tim. I thought I saw Pam. Yeah, she's there. Okay. Well, I think we're getting ready to get started. As chair of the Select Board of Northwood, I find due to the state of the emergency declared by the governor as a result of COVID-19 pandemic and in accordance with the governor's emergency order number 12, pursuant to executive order 2020-04, we're authorized to meet electronically. There's no physical location, but in accordance with the order, we are providing a link and a means for the public to hear us. We're using Zoom. We can meet contemporaneously. The mechanism for the public to indicate if they're having problems with access is to call Paul 603-767-5540. And in the event that we as the select board have trouble with running the meeting electronically, the meeting will be automatically recessed. There might not be an actual vote on that. All votes will be taken by roll call, and we're going to start with a roll call for attendance. Matt.
Present.
Beth.
Here.
Tim.
Here.
Pam.
Present.
And Hal. At this point, I'd like everybody to rise, pledge the closest flag, if you would, please. Okay, thank you. At this point, I'm going to open it up to Citizens Forum. Please indicate using one of your reaction buttons if you'd like to speak publicly. I'm not seeing anybody. So at this point, we're going to move into ongoing business. What I'd first like to do is work on approval of the January 13th minutes. Does anybody have any amendments that they'd like to make to that before we get into the motion to approve it? Any amendments? Okay, hearing none, do I get a motion to approve the minutes as written?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. And any further discussion on those minutes? Hearing none, roll call vote. This is to approve the minutes of the 13th of January. Matt.
Yes.
Beth.
Yes.
Tim.
Abstaining.
Good point. Pam.
Yes.
And Hal is yes. I'm going to move on to the consent agenda. Beth, I know you brought up at some point you wanted to work on amending one of the minutes. Remind me a little bit later in the meeting so we can get through the main part here. And also, I want to try to get through some of Walter's items before the school board joins us. So just remind me if I miss it, if you would, please.
Thank you.
Walter, why don't you read off the consent agenda, if you would, please? And again, this is to keep the public informed as to what we're approving and any other items that come as regular business before the town.
Very good. Good evening. Just to mention, I do have the request that Beth put in for amendments to the minutes on my report, and we can
Okay.
act at
Good.
that time.
Thanks,
Good.
Walter.
Excellent.
just confirms that Mel
Paying attention.
doesn't read them. So. This evening's consent agenda contains the following items. The accounts payable manifest dated January 20th, 2020, which is batch number 15266 for $62,433.35. An accounts payable manifest dated January 27th, 2021, batch number 15303 for $306.45. And two payroll manifests dated January 27th, 2021. The first is batch number 15301 for $111,707.11. And the second is batch number 15305 for $232.50. Consent agenda also has the board's approval of the general assessing services agreement for 2021.
Okay, is there anything on the consent agenda that anybody has any questions or wants to discuss before we vote on approving it? Again, for the public, we scrutinize these in detail prior to the meeting. We, in most cases, sign off on them. This is more of a formality, but we want to make sure that the public knows the decisions that we're making. Okay, do I have a motion to accept the consent agenda as read by Walter?
Motion to accept the consent agenda?
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none. Beth?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Pam?
Yes.
Matt?
Yes.
And Hal is yes. Thank you, Walter. I guess we now move on to your report.
Absolutely, thank you. So just updating you on staffing. We're continuing to advertise for the laborer 2 position in the DPW. We have received some applications and I'd like to discuss a possible candidate with you later on in the meeting and non-public session. The 2019 audit findings, most of the findings have been addressed since 2019. However, Cheryl and I are reviewing and updating policies and practices to be sure all are addressed for 2021. So I just wanted to make sure that that was acknowledged. And again, some of those items were addressed in 2020 before Cheryl and I arrived, but we are continuing to follow those to be sure that they're corrected or taken care of in 2021.
Thank you for being diligent on that, Walter.
Well, Cheryl's on it, and we'll have some policy changes, recommendations or ratifications coming to the board in the near future.
Good.
The new ambulance has arrived and will be in service this week. Just waiting now for the official registration tags to come. It's been inspected and approved to go in service, so it should be in by hopefully in the next day or so in service. The fire command vehicle, that vehicle has been delivered and is currently waiting for the fit up items. Some have arrived, but there's a delay on the cap, and that'll be coming shortly. The DPW pickup is scheduled for delivery actually tomorrow and will be sent out for the plow and sander installation next Monday or Tuesday. Concerning the community center use policy for COVID-19, it was reported recently that some individuals were not complying with the board's COVID-19 safety rules for the facility. I'd like to suggest that letters be sent to any individuals not complying with the rules, advising them if they violate the rules again, then they will not be allowed to enter the building until the rules are rescinded.
Walter, do you need a vote from us or just a general nod of consensus?
A consensus would be fine.
Okay, anybody want to speak up against that? Otherwise, we'll assume Walter's going to move forward with that approach.
I'm good with that. I just want to reiterate that we're expecting our committee chairs to be enforcing those rules and guidelines in all of the buildings. So
Yes, that's correct, Matt. And that's what the procedure says. So I think maybe, as part of this, we should also just reinforce, that those are the rules we passed. Beth?
Are other committees using it besides just the town board chairs? Like other Braiders using it, or like the Democrat, like.
I know at least one of the other political groups is using it. I have not checked recently to see if the Braiders are using it.
Maybe we could just send a letter reminding everyone. That way, in case it's not one of the town committees. I don't know who didn't wear the mask. I have no idea. So.
Well, I'll tell you what.
Wouldn't hurt to send another email.
Given what you said, do we want to ask Walter to just have somebody check the sign-up sheet and send notes like you suggested? Would that work for you?
Yeah, that'd be fine.
Are you comfortable with that, Walter?
Sure. Yes.
I think that's a sort of belts and suspenders approach. It sounds good to me.
Thank you, Walter.
Moving forward, the Northwood 250th Steering Committee. The committee is looking for group-sponsored events and activities for all ages, and a suggestion for mementos to be sold for the celebration. Forms for that responding to this request can be found on the town's website. And I believe I provided a copy for your review as well.
Yeah.
If you agree with putting that on the website.
Again, do you need a vote or just a nod of consensus?
Just a nod of consensus.
if we could push that out through the town Facebook page too, that'd be helpful.
Okay.
And keep this in mind for when we get a newsletter.
Yeah.
Did I work that in?
Very nicely.
Go ahead.
Moving on. I have a request for another town credit card. If you recall, we discussed back in November when I was authorized to get a credit card in my name that we would also get a card issued in the new finance director's name. And now that we have Cheryl on board, I'd like to request that we have the treasurer secure a credit card with a maximum of $5,000 to replace the card that was issued to Paul, as we had previously discussed. And that would require a vote.
Okay, and just to be clear, the $5,000 limit on the credit card does not supersede or take away any of the purchasing policies in terms of approvals that we have in place. Is that correct, Walter?
That's correct. And that's mostly, an aggregate maximum.
Right.
We typically wouldn't be charging that type of an expense to that amount. We would be doing it through a purchase order process or some other credit memo.
No, Beth, go ahead.
I was trying to write down stuff that you were saying, so I missed part of it. I'm so sorry, Walter. So will we be taking back Paul's credit card? I heard part of it. I wasn't quite sure.
Yes, remember, we
Yep.
decided that we would just have two credit cards.
Yep.
And, obviously it's good to have two so that one of us isn't in the office or whatever and it's necessary. But I think, obviously with Cheryl controlling, accounts payable now,
Yeah.
I think it's prudent just to have the two.
Yep.
And I already have mine, so. That's what
Perfect. Thank you so much. Sorry to make you repeat it.
No, I think it was good to say it out loud, so it's good.
I would like
Okay.
a motion, if I could, as stated in my report.
Okay, so what we're looking for is a motion to procure a credit card with a limit of $5,000 for Cheryl. Related to that is the rescinding of the card that Paul has. Do I have a motion to that effect?
I move to authorize the town treasurer to request a town credit card in the name of Cheryl Eastman, finance director, with a limit of $5,000.
Whoa, Matt, you are really on the ball.
Motion.
Yeah,
That was
Thanks.
super fancy, so I second that.
everybody wants to second that. Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none. Tim,
Yes.
Pam,
Yes.
Matt,
Yes.
Beth,
Yes.
and Hal. Yes.
Perfect. Very
Okay,
good, thank you. And as we had just previously discussed, Beth had requested that a correction be made to the December 15th minutes, indicating a vote to purchase the DPW pickup truck. The official minutes were approved reading 5-0, but they should have read 5-1 with Beth voting in opposition.
I think they should have read 4-1.
I'm sorry, did I say 5-1?
Yeah,
4-1.
you did.
4-1. I looked right at it, said 4-1.
Okay, so how do we handle that? Does it just need to be a motion to amend the minutes as suggested?
Yes,
Excuse me. Beth, would you like to make that motion?
I'd like to make that motion.
Great. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second? Okay, great. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Pam?
Hold on one second, please. Checking my notes. Yes. Yes.
Okay, and Matt?
Yes.
Beth?
Yes.
Tim?
Yep. Yes.
And Hal is yes. Thank you. Thanks for remembering that, Walter.
no worries. Moving back and circling back to the 2021 town employee holiday schedule. So I did some research and searched some minutes and really didn't find any information when the revisions were being made to the personnel handbook in August, or actually probably in July of 2019. So I really didn't find any evidence that, what the discussion was surrounding adding Christmas Eve day to the list, but obviously I did confirm that the board did duly approve the handbook in 2019 on August 1st at a public meeting. So, and to the best of my knowledge, it hasn't been amended since then. So my suggestion at this point, as I had suggested before, where it's already a holiday in 2021, that we include a floating holiday so that we maintain the 12 holidays that were approved and are currently approved in the current manual. And then we will be doing a revision of the policy during the course of 2021. And then that can be discussed again for any other consideration.
So what do we need to do on that, Walter? Vote specifically?
Yes,
Okay, so the vote would be or the motion would be to make the holiday a floating holiday.
yes. Basically amending, because you did approve the one that was submitted back in December. So we'd basically be amending the employee holiday schedule to include one floating holiday in place of the Christmas Eve day holiday for 2021.
Right.
Okay.
We would define it for this year only, or would we be making the change and have to revisit it down the road?
I would suggest revisiting it down the road, and then
Right.
if because it's going to happen again next year, when Christmas Eve would fall on a Saturday. So we'll have to address it again as we get through this weekend impact on this particular holiday.
Okay, so I'm looking for a motion
But
that,
I had one question. I'm sorry.
go ahead.
Before we make a motion. So before the August, I think you said August 1st, 2019, there was 11 holidays, then we added another holiday to make 12.
That's correct. That's the evidence.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, everybody understands what's going on? If so, then I think we need a motion to have the currently listed Christmas Eve holiday become a floating holiday for 2021. Do I have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
And a second? Second, thank you, Tim. Any further discussion on that? Matt?
So I do think we should probably circle back to this once things calm down a little bit and take a fresh look at the personnel policy and figure out if there's a way to write this that clearly defines the number of holidays in a calendar year. You know, I don't have a strong feeling with the 11 versus 12. I want to make sure we're being good stewards of taxpayer money. I also want to make sure that we're taking good care of our employees. So, but I do think there's probably a way for us to write this that allows us to not have to revisit this every X number of years when Christmas circles back around to a weekend.
I think that's a good point. Tim, you wanted to make a point.
Well, the transfer station is part of the town business, so why do they have like different, I mean, they only have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, like 8 days they're closed. So why aren't they all incorporated into like town-wide days, not town holidays and the transfer station holidays? Why did we break them down into 2 categories, Matt? Right?
Well, I'm just wondering if some of those dates don't correspond with days they're open.
Okay, is that,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, that's most likely the explanation. Walter, do you want to speak to that?
No, that's true. It's just that because of some of the days do coincide with the regular holidays and some of them don't, because it's a, weekend operation and so forth.
Okay, so let's see. Pam had a question and then Beth.
My question was just on the designation of floating holiday, just to have clarity that in this case, it does mean the Christmas Eve day. So it wouldn't be that somebody could elect to take this date at another time.
Is that your understanding, Walter?
I'm not sure I understand the question. My understanding of a floating holiday is the employee can take it at any time with approval
Okay.
of the supervisor.
So they could
All right.
they could come in and work Christmas Eve and I want May 3rd off. I'm gonna switch those 2 days out. It don't matter what.
Well, and again, in this, going back to the original discussion, in this particular year, 2021, Christmas Eve is already a holiday because it's the Christmas holiday, okay, which happens to fall on a Saturday. So that's the only reason for having to make that adjustment. And yes, they can take it at any time and likely would not work Christmas Eve anyway.
Okay, so Christmas Eve, the town hall would not be open, but they could still take their holiday at another time. So Christmas Eve would become the Christmas day,
Yes.
and they could take the holiday at another time. Okay, now I have clarity. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a little bit confusing when we use some words interchangeably.
Yeah, we should clear that in the future.
Well, I'm not saying we're going to work on that, but for now, I think, does everybody understand what we're trying to do here? So just to summarize, Christmas Day is on a Saturday. Christmas Day is a holiday in our policy handbook. And so instead of the 25th being the town holiday for Christmas, the employees will have off on the 24th. That means that instead of having the quote Christmas Eve holiday that's also in the handbook, they get a floating holiday that they can take at any time with the understanding and permission of their supervisor.
Gotcha.
So that's where we're at. Did we have a motion on that? I don't know.
I'm waiting for Matt to come up with that.
Or
Beth.
Oh, I'm
Sorry,
sorry.
Beth
Beth, you have
after
a
Pam.
question. Sorry.
So, is this a holiday just for the town hall, or are these holidays for all town employees?
All town employees.
Yeah, it's in our personnel policy book. So that would mean, at least according to my understanding, everybody that's covered by that policy, which is all our employees.
Correct.
So then why would the transfer station only have 8 days?
Because,
I
for
mean,
example, a Monday,
It's like,
they might not be open or something.
So like this year,
it's like Thanksgiving.
Christmas Day
down
and New Year's Day both fall on a Friday. New Year's, right? So if a holiday falls on a Friday, they're not open. So they're not going to count that. And I apologize for speaking over anyone else.
Tim?
They will get the holiday.
We got into, well, before I became selectman a couple of years ago, it came up that if you weren't scheduled, I know like a couple, just remembering the library, a couple of the girls weren't scheduled to work that day, but they ended up getting the holiday pay. But some weird thing, I don't know, I'll have to look it up more, but if you're not scheduled to work, you know, within that week or something, it was something, I know it was in some of the minutes. No, it wasn't too.
The
Yeah.
library's closed on Fridays and Sundays. So if the holiday's on a Friday, do they get a holiday?
I think you have to go to the state labor laws to get the answer on that.
That's how, I guess that's what I was referring to, I guess, Beth, thanks, yeah. Something was, if
Walter,
they weren't open and they weren't working, but the holiday fell, I don't know, but it just came up a couple of years ago. I remember something.
Walter, you want to speak to that?
All employees are entitled to 12 holidays, no matter what days they fall on, if it's happened to be whether they're scheduled or not. So that's equity amongst all employees. So all full-time employees get 12 holidays. If they, you know, it's the same way with police. I mean, police and fire, they work work 7 days a week. So, but if they're working a holiday, they still get 8 hours of straight pay for that holiday, whether they're working or not.
Is that full-time or part-time, both?
Part-time gets a pro rata share according to the policy.
Okay.
So if they're a half-time, if they work, 20 hours a week, they get half a day.
Matt?
I just want to suggest that we close discussion on it and schedule this for a deeper dive later on. I don't think it's probably the right moment where especially none of us have had a chance to think too hard about this. That would be my thought here.
I think we should just, personally, I think we should just try to wrap it up. I mean, all Walter's asking is that we designate it as a floater for now. And then we could take your suggestion to do the deeper dive when we come back and write it properly.
That's exactly what I'm saying. Yeah, let's move the
So
question.
Let's vote on this for this year with the expectation that Walter's going to come back with some better wording later in the year for the personnel policy, maybe in conjunction with some other changes he's going to recommend. Is everybody comfortable with that?
Yes. Did we have a motion? I can't remember anymore.
Yeah, we did. No?
I don't think so.
Okay. Do you want to make a motion?
Sure. I'll move to include Christmas Eve as a holiday in 2021.
Well, as
Sorry, I'm floating. That's totally my mistake. I'd like to include a floating holiday in 2021.
okay. Everybody clear on what we're doing?
I have one more question before I second that.
Sure.
Are part-timers prorated then? So if there's 12 holidays, the part-timers get like 6? Or if they,
Based on their regularly scheduled hours.
thank you. Second.
Okay, thanks, Beth. Okay, any further discussion? If not, then we'll do a roll call vote. Matt,
Yes.
Beth,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Pam,
Give me
Yes.
a few minutes.
and Hal is yes.
Go play.
So, Walter, as you can see, these are, things that we want to make sure we get right. So we'll be looking to you to bring this up and help us clarify it and nail it down properly later in the year.
I have a whole list.
Yes, I'm sure you do. Okay, so Walter, I'm going to apologize for interrupting you, but it's 6:28. Do you have a 2-minute item, or should we just wait for the school board to get online and start that discussion?
I just wanted to report that I did attend the quarterly meeting of the Lamprey Regional Cooperative, and they approved the budget for 2021, and I provided you the figures. I sent it via email, the full report with the budget for both the operating and the closure, and both those budgets were approved, and that's all I wanted to do is just give you an update on that.
Okay, very good.
Questions, we can take it up later.
Okay, good. Well, let's see. I see Brian's online. And I see Stephanie. Well, it looks like we're getting a few others here. Okay, Jen.
Well, that's a new room, Jen. Usually we see the Matt's room.
I know, we can't both be on Zoom at the same time.
It's like, you can sit next to me for this, but she didn't.
Oh, no, we might not know who's who. No.
She's very professional, Matt.
Yes.
Very professional.
Ha.
Okay. Ryan, do you want me to wait for a few more of the school board, or you want me to get started?
I think you could probably get started. We have a quorum. Jessica Boudreau might be here. She said she'd be off camera if she is, so just keep an eye out for her. And then I had only heard from Shane Wells yesterday that he was working, couldn't do yesterday. I didn't hear anything about today, so I don't know.
Okay. Well, I'll take the lead on this if you don't mind. And if you feel that you need to speak up, just do so. I'll watch for your talking. So, as you know, we've been working on how we're going to hold the deliberative sessions, and that's for both the school and the town. Just recently, the governor said that we have an option of, instead of holding them as normally scheduled, we can also delay them up to several months. At our last meeting, when we were talking about this, we felt that it would make sense to consider the school and the town basically following each other in lockstep, meaning that if one group decided to postpone, then the other group probably is best if they postpone too. Some of that's logistical considerations, some of that's the voting considerations, but we're having the joint meeting to see if we can't come to a joint conclusion on what we should do. So what I'm going to suggest is first ask if anybody objects to us having that concept where the school and the town are basically trying to work together and synchronize their schedules in terms of this particular session. Does anybody have any concerns that we're trying to tether them? Okay. So
I don't. I think personally it makes a lot of sense to be together. So.
Yeah, that was sort of the discussion at our planning meetings, but we didn't want to leave that, just up to us. We thought, let's get the rest of the board members in and ask specifically. I'm not seeing anybody really objecting. So then I think the next thing up for consideration then is what dates do we go with? And when I say what dates do we go with, what I'm really referring to is right now we're scheduled for January 30th and February 4th, town and school respectively. And when we talk about delaying, if we talk about delaying, for example, 2 months, that means we pushed both of them back, essentially the 2 months. So if it's pushed back 2 months, January, it would be the end of March and the very beginning of April, with a vote then accordingly spaced out after that. So what I'd like to do to get this under consideration is I'd like to say that during all of our discussions for the planning, assuming the regular dates,
Hey, Hal?
nobody felt that we could not do this safely on the current dates. What we're trying to figure out is there an advantage? Would it be even safer at a later date? Are there other considerations in terms of moving it to a later date? So that's what we're trying to sort out during this joint session. Is there an advantage to moving later?
Can I just throw something out there for a quick sec?
Thank you. I'm sorry. Were you talking earlier?
No, I was trying to, but that's okay.
He had his hand up, Hal. You just didn't see him.
You gotta go like this.
You're sitting in the dock. You can't see you.
No, it's fine. I mean, you mentioned 2 months, but then 2 months.
I couldn't quite grasp what you said, Keith.
He's
No,
frozen.
I wasn't done. So, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Any better? All right,
Yeah.
sorry. You mentioned 2 months, and 2 months would be great. I think that's a fine thing to do. But I just wanted to point out that, like, 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, I think those are the options, right? So we can do any one of those.
Right,
And I
right.
just wanted to throw that out there as a.
Good point. Yeah. So I guess we need to think about whether we want to move it out, and if so, how far out. I was just using the 2 months as the example, but yes, I think the governor allows us to do it up through June. Is that correct, Keith?
No.
Okay.
I
So
think that's right. Yeah.
yeah. So I guess what I'd like to do at this point, for the folks that haven't been on our sessions, I'd like if both Bob Young and Colleen would speak to this and give us their thoughts, insights, pros and cons as to the decision we need to make. So Bob, can you lead us off here, if you would, please, and give us your thoughts in terms of this decision?
I'd be happy to. I was going to allow our health officer to proceed, but
Hold on, you first. I was going to, but that's okay. Go ahead, Bob. You can have it.
all right. Couple of things just to point out. As I sent out to Walter this morning, both Nottingham and Deerfield have decided to postpone both their elections and deliberative sessions. Deerfield has gone to June, as has Nottingham, and I believe Nottingham has an April date for their deliberative sessions, and Deerfield has gone to June, with the idea that should something, in other words, they felt it was easier to have the possibility of being out in the open should they have a large turnout. I'm not sure. I mean, Northwood, particularly the Northwood deliberative sessions, have not been high. One of my concerns has been just that we do have community spread. And if you'll notice, even though the state is going down, Nottingham, Barnstead, Northwood, and Deerfield, if you got tonight's memorandum from me, are up. I mean, there's quite a community spread. And so I think you're going to find that the elderly are going to be concerned about coming out, and they're the ones that do come out to the deliberative sessions. And so now what has happened is you sort of possibly disenfranchising them simply because of fear. So I would be in favor of us postponing. The difference here, though, is that I know that we've been meeting, at least Matt and Monica and Keith and for a while now, and Hal, and the concern has been we could probably go forward safely with the school with having multiple rooms, but postponing since we are allowed to do so. I mean, initially our plans had been because that wasn't an option. And that became an option as of the 22nd. So I would be in favor of suggesting that the town postpone.
If I may just add a point to what Bob said. He mentioned that we might consider holding this outside. But if we postpone, that does not mean we must hold it outside. And in fact, if we decide that we don't hold it outside, we can hold it inside, similar venue, same way, but there still would be an advantage because, as Bob said, some of the folks that can't wear masks or maybe refuse to wear masks, but I'll focus on the ones that can't wear masks, they would have to wait outside. We would have set up for them to participate by being outside. But I looked at the forecast for this Saturday, it's going to be 2 degrees. So, you know, to think about somebody that's maybe sick enough that they can't wear a mask, to then ask them to, oh, please wait outside while we have our 3-hour session. I think that's something to weigh in on or to consider. Bob, did you want to say anything else though?
I think that's basically it. I mean, I think that the town has the opportunity to postpone, and based on what the current health situation is, and the fact that we saw last year that as we got into spring, our numbers went down again. So the state was able to open up. So I think it's the confined spaces, the cold weather, and basically COVID fatigue that has shown this increase.
Okay, Pam has a question for you.
Yeah, hi, Bob.
Hi, Pam.
Hi, with the new online registration for the 1B grouping of
Yes.
people eligible, the age 65 and above, and those with medical conditions, this is putting the vaccine into the arms of people that are out, not in the nursing home or first responders. So it means that a lot more of our population by March will have an opportunity to at least get the first vaccine. I know that many of them are getting their first shot in March. It's that far stretched out.
Yeah.
So this might help as far as reducing community spread, because with more and more people gaining at least their first vaccination, there's that period of protection, and we overall as a community interacting with one another, if a percentage of our community now has a vaccination, then all of us become a little bit safer. So postponement for weather is one consideration, but postponement with the added protection of the vaccination rollout might benefit us.
Good. Thank you, Pam. Colleen, I saw you waving your hand a few times now, so why don't you speak?
Well, everybody's kind of summed up what I was going to say. I don't think that it would be beneficial to push it out by a month or two. I think that if we're going to do it, we need to do it by at least 3 months, just because I'm starting to say before I had a chance that initial vaccine, and then you have 1 month usually till you can get the 1 month or 4 weeks so you can get the second one, and then it's an additional 2 weeks after that before the immunity kicks in. So you're looking at, even if you started with a vaccination now, 6 weeks at least until that immunity starts to kick in. So I think if we're going to do it, we need to push it out by quite a bit. I kind of like the time frame the local towns are doing with that initial deliberative session in May, voting in June. I think the weather, I think that is more, we can add more ventilation. Our numbers should be going down. And then the immunizations starting to kick in. So I think if we're going to do it, it would be prudent to do it by a couple months.
I think that's good input. That's a good insight, really. Brian, how do you feel?
I don't have a strong opinion either way in terms of.
That's my phone, incidentally. It'll stop shortly.
Yeah, that's okay. No, I mean, I feel like there's not really anything to lose by pushing it back, and it just allows for more people to come in, other than obviously we're losing tradition. We have to be aware of our communication with the community and whatnot, but I don't think that's a challenge we can't overcome. And I think what we gain from that is likely more participation and more people at ease by coming out later and being part of the process. So that being said, the numbers that we've seen at deliberative session, at least for the school for the past couple of years, I'm sure we could accommodate safely. So I'm not too concerned if we don't want to buck tradition here. If we want to stick to the timeline, I think we could do it safely. But to me, I don't really, I don't object to either way, I guess. I just feel like we only could do better if we delay a little bit. So.
Okay, so to that point, you don't feel that like maybe some of these variants that we're seeing or anything like that might wreak havoc with that position?
Yeah, it's hard to tell. Obviously, I'm no virologist at all, so I hope not. But that's kind of what we're all hoping, I guess.
Okay, Jen, how about you?
Yeah, I'm with Brian on this. I can see benefits to doing it both ways, and I'm not sure I feel strongly one way or another on that.
Okay, hey Keith, just hold on. I'm going to just see if we can go through the rest of the school board, and then I'll come back to you. So Stephanie, do you want to speak?
Yeah, I agree with Brian.
Oh, she was quick and to the point. She agrees with Brian and she's muted. Keith, how about you?
So I just wanted to point out one issue that, especially the school board members, so we haven't talked about this before, even though I've talked about it with some of the selectmen. Pushing off this means that your budget won't be set until much later, and some of your contracts especially with the teachers union and things like that, may have to be extended, the previous contracts, because they're expected to be renewed at a certain time, right? So that's just something you have to keep in mind, that's going to be a complication, I think, for you. I mean, and maybe it's fine, and maybe it's easy to fix, maybe it's not, but I just want that to be on your minds, as far as like there are certain things that are going to get pushed off. And the town, I think, has it worse because their budget isn't set earlier, whereas the school budget isn't set till June, right?
Right. Our fiscal year obviously rolls over July 1.
Right.
And then we don't have the NESPA contract or the CBA up for the ballot this year. So in terms of them being renewed, this is probably like a fairly good year for this to happen, to delay the vote. But we should look into that too, I guess, a little bit more, just to make sure.
Yeah.
Our board attorneys will keep us posted on those things they're monitoring.
I just, I don't.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Colleen.
You have your blinders on for me, Hal.
Well, I'm looking at the other corner of the computer.
You're a small screen. Look like you're like 3,000 miles away. Come closer.
Brian, I do think that we can do this safely. Like, we have laid out very carefully thought out plans that I do think we can do this safely. I just think for our vulnerable populations, it would be safer to pass it out. But if that's not what everybody wants, then we will make this work as scheduled and make it safe for our community.
Tim, did you want to speak?
I think just like you said, everybody, postpone it, and you can obviously warmer weather, like you said. Even if we're going to definitely have it. We're having, you said 2 degrees, and that's without the wind blowing Saturday, and having people stand outside and hold signs, and it's just going to be a big disaster. You have to be counting, fingers and toes. So.
Yep.
Yeah, Beth, I can see you.
I sit close. No, I'd prefer to postpone it. We have to think about, the people that do come to the deliberation usually are older people, and they haven't had their chance for their immunization. And I think just to be safe, we can afford to. I mean, we can still pay the bills, so it's not like it's going to be detrimental. I think for the safety of everybody.
Okay, let's see. Did everybody get a chance to speak that's on the board? Matt, did you speak?
I haven't. I'm pretty much in line with what everybody else is saying. I do think that we could do it safely this weekend and next week, but I think given the fact that we have the chance to push it back, according to the governor, and whoever brought up the point about disenfranchising older voters, I think that really resonated with me. I want to make sure that we're not putting the desire to get it over with in front of people's health and safety. And while I have a couple of things on the town budget side of things that it's going to impact, especially as the recreation rep on the board, we're looking to hire a rec director. We won't know if we're looking to hire someone full-time or part-time. But I think we can get past a lot of that stuff and figure it out if we get creative. So I guess I would be in favor of pushing it back at this point and prioritizing safety over getting it done.
Okay, so I'm just going to say, based on what I've heard, it sounds like there's a general consensus to push it back. How about we have a discussion on what month or what dates to generally push it back? So for this discussion, I'm going to ask Walter or Keith, who has read up on, what the exact timing is in terms of what it means in terms of how far. So like, for example, if we wanted to do it in June and have the vote, let's say, done by the end of June, what's the timing for the deliberative sessions? Walter?
Well, they're very specific about the days that you can hold your elections. So it can only be on the second Tuesday of April, May, June, or July, okay? So backing up from there, we have to provide 14 days notice of the meeting, and then you would probably want to go maybe a month, maybe 2 more weeks for the deliberative session. So I would say a month prior to the election, and depending on when you want to have the elections, that date will be determined by that month.
Okay, so let's work through a scenario so everybody understands. Let's assume that we want to vote the second week of June so that the school knows their budget going into July. They've got the most money at stake, and for them not to know going right in, it might be more difficult. So let's sort of assume that we're talking about the second week in June to vote.
June 8th would be the date. The second Tuesday is June 8th.
Okay, so June 8th. Oh, so it's relatively early. So then when would we have to have the deliberative sessions, Walter?
So roughly a month earlier.
So the beginning of May, essentially.
Second week of May. Yep.
Yeah. Is that something we want to consider? Anybody have a problem with that date?
Sounds good.
Yep, especially in light of what Colleen was saying around
15th of May.
Yep.
It's that Saturday.
It's not Mother's Day.
No, Mother's Day the 9th. Yeah,
Wow.
that's on a Sunday.
Happy Mother's Day, Mom. We're gonna go vote. No.
Okay.
I think that makes sense because like a month or two, I don't think a whole lot's going to change around here. But 4 months, we have better luck and better weather, for sure.
May 15th and June 8th.
Yeah, and when we're talking about these dates, the June 8th is fixed. That's sort of etched in stone. The actual deliberative session dates, well, as Walter said, there's a certain amount of time you need to proceed the vote. But for example, the school is doing theirs on a weeknight. Maybe the town will decide to do theirs on a weeknight, or maybe vice versa. The school will decide that they want to pick a Saturday, depending on, what venue we ultimately choose and stuff. So let's just say that for now, up for consideration is voting on June 8th with the governing bodies to set when their deliberative sessions would be according to the state statutes and rules. Is everybody comfortable with that approach?
Yes.
Matt?
Yeah,
I'm comfortable with that approach. I also just wanted to float that we might want to explore the possibility of even combining the deliberative sessions if that's legal to do so. If we're going to set it up outside, it's going to take a lot of logistical planning. We might as well do it once as opposed to twice. Just something I wanted to.
Yeah, throw it out. Yeah. Okay. Well, we can
Totally agree with that. By the way, that's I was thinking the same thing. That'd be awesome to be able to combine them.
Bring your own camp chair.
Yep.
Well, and the school warrant is fairly short this year, isn't it?
Yeah, it's fairly short. Obviously, the main budget presentation is a little involved, but there's not too many other warrants. So
Bob wanted to say something.
My only thing is that it would be important for you tonight at your meetings to try to set the deliberative session, simply because our deliberative session is on Saturday. So you don't have a lot of time to post and let people know. So, the moderator can postpone.
Do we need to, if it's pushed off though, Bob, do we actually need to post it at this point?
That's a question in terms of, I know that you need to postpone to a time and date definite if the moderator does it.
Right. I'm not
If the
sure.
town has postponed it, I think you should set a date. Walter probably has that answer.
I actually have it right in front of me if you'd like, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
The governing body shall provide notice to voters of the date or dates promptly after making the decision to postpone. The governing body shall also repost notice at least 14 days before the date of the rescheduled official ballot voting day and or business or deliberative session. So it sounds like we need to tell everybody that we've decided to postpone, and once we have a date, let them know, but it doesn't sound like we need to decide tonight if we can't get there.
Well, just for talking purposes, is May 15th a Saturday?
Yes.
Yes.
So we could say that the town's going to go on the May 15th if we want to stick, maybe trying to change too much is not a good idea. So if we stick with Saturday like we traditionally have and say it's going to be the 15th, is everybody comfortable with that?
Yes.
And then the school, you can decide, I guess, normally you're like 5 days after us on that Thursday. Is that still enough time for them, Walter, or do they need to go ahead of us?
I don't believe so.
Yeah, we could, I mean, if we went before you on the 13th, that would definitely leave enough time.
Yeah, the guidance and the order, and I've discussed this with the town attorney, doesn't provide anything about the deliberative session. All it says that you have to notice it, the same way you have to notice the election. So well, that's good news and bad news, because that gives you the opportunity to have a little wiggle room. And then if they come back with more definitive guidance, then we may have to make some adjustments. But
Okay.
I'm scheduled to speak with town council in the morning about very specific wording that's going to be required in the notice to reschedule, and we'll get that posted right away.
Okay, so one final question for me. What about logistically, you have the deliberative session, then you need to print up the ballots. Do you have enough time to do that if we go on the 15th?
3 weeks? I would think so.
Okay. That was my only other point. Okay.
We could do a week earlier if that makes things easier, right? I mean,
Well, then we might hit Mother's Day and all that kind of stuff. And
Mother's
yeah.
Day, we could do it on Saturday.
Let's vote on that. Yeah. Okay.
Every day.
I think we're at that exciting part of the meeting where now we have to
Adjourn?
Oh no, girl, you have no idea how long our meetings are.
So I think we are two separate governing bodies. We need two separate votes. Pam, do you want to say something?
Well, probably a minor point, but are we running into graduations like May 15th that some of us are not available for, or something like that?
It's possible. Beth?
So I know prom is always the Saturday before Mother's Day. That would be the 8th. And then the high school graduation is always the Friday before Memorial Day weekend. So we're the weekend in between Co-Brown's big things.
And UNH commencement's on the 22nd.
Yeah.
And I just looked at school's calendar real quick and I didn't see anything. That's not to say that's official, but I did just pop and there's nothing there right now, but you have to check with admin.
I guess there's room for adjustments after the fact, but I think if we make a motion and vote on it to at least set the meeting for now at that point in time, there's probably ways to amend it if we find out there's something really critical that we missed.
Right.
I'm just going to assume that though. Okay, so like I said, I think we're at the exciting part where we're two different governing bodies. We each need to vote separately. So Brian, if you don't mind, I'll ask for a motion from the select board, for the town select board. I'm looking for a motion to move the deliberative session to May 15th and the vote to June 8th. Do I have such a motion?
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Second, thank you.
Okay, so with voting, do we have to vote to postpone and then vote for another date, or is this all, can we roll it into one?
I think it's all rolled into one.
Okay.
To postpone it from the current to this.
Yep, okay, thank you, yep.
That's a
So
good
moved.
question, but I think we're just going to make it formal that it's from to.
Yeah.
Okay, everybody knows what we're voting on. Roll call vote. Beth,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Pam,
Yes.
Matt,
Yes.
and Hal is yes. Brian, I think it's up to you, and I think maybe you have to call your meeting to order first.
Okay, so I'll call the Northwood School Board. I don't even know what kind of meeting this is, but the Northwood School Board meeting to order with a roll call. Brian Winslow is a yes. Jen Fry is here, I believe.
Here and a yes.
And Stephanie Arroyo is here.
Here and yes.
And I don't believe the other two board members have been able to make it. So, okay, then.
It is, I'm sorry, just quick point of order. It's an emergency meeting and I'll document it for you and send to Alex.
Good.
Thank you. Appreciate that. So I think we're probably all in agreement about at least moving the election. We have to find a date for the deliberative session. We should probably do that as well. If we do 2 days before on Thursday, the 13th, that might make logistics a little bit easier on setup and whatnot. Might not, but I would welcome input from people who do the logistical setup for deliberative session and whatnot. If you would have any objection to Thursday the 13th, or if you think that makes good sense.
I mean, Brian, if we're doing it outside, that might be a right. Might not be any problem with if we're using a field or something like that. You know, we'll have to set up again, but you know, at least we won't be set. Or the alternative is we're doing it in the school gym, in which case, if students come in on Friday, you have to do, you know, set up, tear down, maybe, and set up again.
Right. And currently, we don't have students in the building on Friday, or we don't have very many anyways. And if we go to our phase 5, I think is still for a 4-to-1 session. And Friday would likely still be our flex day. So even my thought with that date being 2 days before on the Thursday evening is when students leave on Thursday, then we'll get things set up, and hopefully whether it's inside or outside, it shouldn't be too terrible for custodians and whatnot. So, okay. Stephanie or Jen, how do you feel about Thursday the 13th for deliberative session?
That's fine.
Okay. And I think, so then I'm looking for a motion to delay the election to June 8th and delay the deliberative session to May 13th at 6 p.m.
So moved.
Stephanie, any chance you want to second that?
Second.
Thank you. I appreciate it. So we'll just roll call through. Brian Winslow's a yes. Jen Fry.
Yes.
Stephanie Arroyo.
Yes.
Okay. That's what we'll do. Thanks.
Great. Really appreciate the cooperation. It's wonderful. Thank you.
Oh, do we
Do I
need
have
to?
to motion to adjourn the school board? Do I have to do that?
Well, hold on a second. I see several hands, so maybe hold off.
Sure.
Matt,
Brian, who was your second for your motion? Was that Jen? I didn't catch who second.
That
Jen
was
made
Stephanie.
the motion and Stephanie seconded the motion.
Thanks.
okay, so who had their hands up? Matt.
Do we need to amend our motion to include a time, or are we good just setting the date?
Just the date.
Okay.
Ben?
Nope, I was just pointing, make sure you saw Keith. So
I was just wondering, like, the candidate sign up is this week, and I think it ends on Friday. Does this change any of that if we're pushing back the date? No, it's still like by Friday or Saturday, whatever it is. People will need to sign up for the ballot.
Yep, that wasn't addressed in the order, so it stays.
Okay.
Signing up for positions, I don't think that changes the deadline. So,
Okay.
for folks that are listening, if you want to apply for town offices, Friday 3 to 5 is the latest.
It is good
Anything
to know.
else while we're together as two boards?
Al,
Okay, well, again,
Al, Walt's trying to get you.
oh, sorry, Walter.
I just wanted to confirm the fact that because the elections are being postponed, whoever's in office now, that term extends until the elections are completed. So if you had plans to go on vacation after March 8th, you may have to adjust it.
Good point, good point. Okay. Anything else? Well, I want to thank the school board for joining us on such very quick notice. But I really do think it's good for the town that we can work together and coordinate things. I think it makes things easier for everybody. So my sincere thanks for you joining us and having your meeting tonight. Have a good evening.
Great. Thank you very much. I'll make a motion for the Northwood School Board to adjourn.
Second.
Thanks for
Brian,
coming.
yeah, thank you for having us. And like you said, I think it's just so much better for everybody if we just work together on this. So thank you for that and taking the lead on it. I appreciate it. So Brian Winslow's a yes. Jen Fry.
Yes.
Stephanie Arroyo.
Yes.
Okay, have a good evening, guys. Thank you.
Great.
Good night,
Thanks.
guys.
Everybody, good
Night,
night.
everybody.
That was a great meeting, everyone. See you later. Bye. Yeah. Yeah?
Yeah, that was like when I went to David Ortiz's retirement, and there was this hour-long ceremony, and then everyone was emotionally exhausted, and there was still a baseball game to be played
Oh,
afterwards.
geez.
That was
Well, I don't know if I'm emotionally exhausted, but I think we better take a bio break.
All right. Hal, you don't need me for anything else, right? I'm going to take off too, I think.
Oh, yeah, Keith, thank you. Yeah,
Thanks,
for
Keith.
asking me, Keith.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
He gets to go.
Yeah,
Bye.
well, unless he signed up to run from instead of moderator for a select board position.
He can be a write-in. What could go wrong with a write-in?
Oh, he got this damn job.
All right. Have a good meeting, guys. See you
Thank
later.
you.
Bye.
Thanks, Steve. 2-minute bio break.
You in the bathroom?
Okay, let's see. We need Pam yet. So while we're waiting for Pam, I guess I'm a little bit surprised at Keith's comment about not being interested in running for select board member. I mean, after we saw how much fun we have at the meetings, I mean, what? I just don't get it. But
I'm here.
oh, Pam, good, great. Okay, well, how about we get started again? Walter, I believe you still have some more items on your list.
I do. I just have a couple more items. So in your packet, there was a summary report from our contract assessor, Jeff Earls, just providing the board a summary of what he found during the course of the hearings. As noted, there was about 125 hearings that were held via telephone to hear, concerns about the new evaluations, and I think it went pretty well. We're continuing to get abatement applications, and they'll be reviewing those and making recommendations to the board during the course of the next month or so. So just want to make sure you had that update.
Walter, I have a question on that, if I may, please. He meant, well, two questions actually. One is, he mentioned that about 25% were folks that were exempt at the original assessment rate and now ended up having to pay some taxes. I think he said it was about 25% of the total. Were all of those people told that if they want to, they can apply for a hardship, or what's the word when you have an inability to pay?
So they were told that they could file for an abatement, which is the process. And one of the conditions for considering an abatement is someone's ability or inability to pay for financial reasons.
Okay.
That's obviously something that people can do. Especially folks that went from no taxes to to now we got a letter from one taxpayer where last year's bill was $0 and this year's bill was $2,000.
Right.
Again, that's for a whole year in their particular case. So those types of folks can certainly apply, and the board can consider that on the merits of their application.
Okay, so they were told that then. Okay, so just so that we're getting the word out to folks then is what I'm trying to make sure.
I believe they were told, certainly told about the abatement. I wasn't there. I didn't attend any of the hearings, but they were certainly advised that they could file for an abatement.
Okay. Now, I guess the related question is, Carol was mentioned in his note as doing a good job handling the calls and stuff. So I think that's maybe something for you to consider in terms of feedback for her.
Mm-hmm. Yes, she did a great job, actually, I think was the term he used, and I agree.
Yeah. I know when I go in there, she has a calming influence on me too, so that's saying something. Okay, next item.
So just talking about the upcoming meeting schedule for regular board meetings, obviously tonight, 26th, and I believe February 9th and the 23rd would be in the typical rotation of the second and fourth Tuesday. Is that the pattern the board wants to continue with?
I would like that.
Yeah, that's, as far as I'm concerned, pretty much etched in stone. Otherwise, things start to go haywire on us. I mean, we occasionally adjust them, but or maybe have an additional meeting, but it's not just us. I think that the townsfolk also expect the meetings on these nights.
Just confirming. And obviously, my note about the deliberative session obviously is moot at this point. I do want to mention just a couple of other items, late breaking items. As we had discussed previously, we did have an inspection done of the town-owned property at 55 Main Street by the building inspector. A public works foreman was there, and the a representative from the police department. The summary basically, I have a copy that I'll forward to you, but I just wanted to let you know that got done, and the building is secure. It doesn't appear that there was any recent occupancy or people utilizing the property. So I just wanted to pass that on to you, and then I have an assessment from the building inspector about more physical details that I'll forward to you between now and the next meeting, but that has been done, and the building is secure.
Okay, good. Thank you. Thank you for your diligence.
No problem.
Sorry, Walter.
No,
I wanted to back it up real quick to the meeting schedule. Safe to say we no longer need the scheduled meeting for Friday night this week in preparation for a deliberative session. That's not going to happen, right?
Correct.
Right.
Don't be sad, Matt. It's okay.
Friday nights with you guys are my favorite.
You have to take your wife out to supper now. She's still listening?
Nah, she's gone.
The only other thing I wanted to bring your attention to was sent you an email later on this afternoon about a critical bill going before the House and the Senate, New Hampshire House and Senate, that is, regarding the state's obligation to the New Hampshire retirement system that they suspended several years ago now, where they were used to be contributing 30% of the cost of the retirement system, which was kind of the carrot they used in order to entice cities and towns to join the state retirement system way back when. So there is a bill in the House and a bill in the Senate. One of them proposes the state now contributing 5%, and that's the House bill, and then that's House Bills 274, and Senate Bill 72, which proposes 15% come from the state back into the retirement system, which would obviously have a positive impact on our contribution to the state retirement system. So I'd like the board members to be aware of that, and if you feel that it's appropriate to support that, the hearings are tomorrow and Thursday. The House bill's tomorrow, I believe, and the Senate bill's on Thursday. And I provided you the connection information to weigh in on that. And both, our state representatives are one's a vice chair of one of the committees in the House, and I believe our senator is also the vice chair of the Finance Committee in the Senate. So just bring that to your attention and call for action if you're so inclined.
Matt?
So I was wondering if we could make a motion to allow members of the board to write in our official capacities as opposed to taxpayers, which I wouldn't do without board permission. But I think it's more powerful if we write both as local officials as well as residents.
Are you thinking a joint letter, Matt, or are you just thinking individual letters that we send?
Individual letters. I started drafting my letters, and basically saying I'm writing to you today as both a taxpayer as well as a selectman in the town of Northwood, in hopes that we would agree that we can do that. If the board doesn't want us to be able to write those letters in support of the legislation with, as representing the board, then I would certainly take that piece out. But I think this is, to me, a no-brainer, right? It reduces our sort of fiscal responsibility there. Anytime we can get the state to stop downshifting some of those costs to us, that's good legislation to be pushing.
Yeah. So I guess you're saying you want a motion to allow that. I guess I would consider that if you would make it contingent on you sharing your letter, so we can shamelessly plagiarize it.
That's fine. I'll write it at the end of our meeting tonight, but the committee hearing is 11 a.m. tomorrow. So
yeah, well, that's why
the first of two.
So can't we just decide to put it this way, allow Matt to finish writing his letter, and then it can be from all of us?
Would you like that, Matt?
That's fine with me, and it'll be pretty straight and to the point if you want to even forego the proofreading before I hit send. It's basically going to be that we as the Northwood Select Board are encouraging you to support this legislation. So it'll be a little more flowery than that, but
okay,
there won't be any other messages in there.
So that's
like tulips or daffodils? What kind of flowers?
Daffodils.
No small print, right?
Nope.
Everything.
Okay, so how about a
Thank you,
motion?
Matt.
Well, Walter's had his hand up a few
Walter's
times. I
doing
want to
this.
make sure we're not going afoul of anything.
Oh, go ahead, Walter.
You're not seeing my hand anymore, Hal. Is that intentional or?
Better go big.
Walter, I call you fairly regularly.
You've been here like a month or so. He just like.
I did want to point out that you can weigh in electronically. So, tonight before you go to bed, you could actually use the link that I provided you in the email that would allow you to electronically show your support by simply clicking a button that says support. And that'll get recorded electronically in the public record. And I agree, the board taking a position as a board, but it would also give the opportunity for each one of you individually to kind of multiply the support by also offering your support as individuals, just to kind of strengthen the, the results. I'm not
So
sure
where was the support button?
if you go on
I have you, I'm looking at it now. So where, House Executive Department Committee, press there? And then the Senate one?
as soon as you scroll down, you should see a bullet that says I support or I don't support. Once you pick the committee.
Okay,
Got it?
maybe.
Sorry, I don't have it in front of me.
Yeah, I don't either. I remember seeing it.
That was it. I'll keep on looking.
Okay, okay.
I have
So,
a more direct link I can send you to after the meeting.
yeah, why don't you do that? That'll be quicker. Okay, so motion to allow Matt to speak for the board regarding our that we're in favor of this legislation. Do I have a motion to that effect?
So
So
moved.
moved. Oh, Beth, got Beth and me, no matter.
Okay, any further discussion?
As long as it doesn't send a picture, we'll be all set. No, I'm kidding.
Oh, I think we have a rule about personal attacks.
I'll save it for citizens forum.
Okay, so we're gonna vote. Tim, how do you vote? Yeah.
Yes, yep. All
That's,
right.
I have to say verbally so that folks listening can hear. Pam,
Yes.
Matt,
Yes.
Beth,
Yes.
and Hal is yes. Okay, anything else, Walter?
That's all I have for my report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so I guess we're moving on to the review of the guidelines and details for the deliberative session. So I think we'll just wrap this one up relatively quickly by me saying I sent out notes, or maybe some of them came via Walter in terms of the different things that we've discussed in terms of how we're preparing to hold the meeting, or at least we're planning on holding the meeting. And some of those same concepts will apply even as we move to the different date. And I guess what I'd say is, unless you have some questions, then I think the other point is that as we get closer to the real date, we'll sit together and do some of that prep work like we had talked about before, who's going to cover which ones and how we're going to make the motions and things like that. I think we'll probably forget if we try to do it now. So we'll just postpone that. Does anybody have any questions or concerns with either of those points? Okay. Walter, you wanted to review the encumbrances.
Yes, I just wanted to provide an update. As you know, this was done back in the end of December. We've been paying 2020 bills for the first 3 weeks of January. So a lot of the things that were on the original list have been removed because they ended up being paid out of the 2020 budget. So this is just an update of what's remaining. It's been reduced to the highway pickup truck for $53,000. Miscellaneous expenses for December from the land use department for $856.70. The remaining fit up for the new cruiser, which I inadvertently omitted from the December 29th list, but had the purchase request from the chief for two-way communications to complete that installation for $5,500. And then, as we discussed, the restoration of records for both $39.30 and $10,512, which will be a project that will be ongoing through the next 6 months or so.
Yeah.
So that reduces the encumbered amount to $81,798.70. And the continuing appropriations discontinued.
Okay, so it sounds like we've got things reasonably well under control. When do you think you'll wrap up and have the final expenditure number, down to within, the miscellaneous bill or two?
We could hear from Cheryl on that if you'd like, but
Oh, she's here. Oh, well, should we put the pressure on her in public here?
As of right now, I think it's pretty much wrapped up. I have a couple small bills that have come in that I'll be processing on Friday for the next week's AP. I don't foresee anything else big coming at us. So I think after I put those last few in, I can run you some reports and give you some pretty much definite totals.
Yeah, when we understand there could be, a couple nits and gnats and stuff. Okay, well, how about we do that then? We'll leave it up to you as to exactly when you run the report, but if you get something to us relatively soon after you feel comfortable, I think we'd all appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. By the end of next week, you'll have something for sure.
Great. And we're glad you're here.
Thank you.
And just a footnote, those are pre-audit, figures. There will be some audit adjustments, some accrued payroll, that type of thing. That'll be minor adjustments, but nothing significant. Is that correct, Cheryl? Am I correct on that?
That is correct. Yep.
Yeah, that's the understanding. Yeah,
Okay.
we understood that. But again, just really glad everything you're doing for us. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, I'm going to move on now to additional details of the November 10th board meeting. What was that one? Was that one Beth's also?
No. So this was, if you remember back on the 10th of November, there was a public hearing that was held at the request of the land use department in order to amend the guidelines for issuing building permits on Class 6 roads. And the minutes didn't clearly reflect that what was being amended. And so Linda has asked that the minutes be amended to clarify that there were revisions to the Selectmen's guidelines for building permits on Class 6 roads and private roads.
Okay. So Walter, why don't you state what kind of motion you're looking for?
So we would want to amend the minutes of the November 11th, 2020 board minutes.
10th?
Yes.
You said 11th, I thought.
No, I think I said 10th, but okay. To add that the board held a public hearing on the revisions to the Selectmen's guidelines for building permits on Class 6 and private roads. And that was an motion to accept the proposed changes to the Selectmen's guidelines for building on Class 6 roads and private roads would have been appropriate clarification.
Okay. Tim?
Just for clarification, was that the meeting we were at the town hall, right? And Linda and Scott LaCroix started calling on the phone. We had trouble hearing Scott, the building inspector. Is that the meeting we were all at the town hall, right? Linda was phoning in. John was there. Anybody?
I don't think we voted on it till the week after, though.
Yeah, but that was, okay, that's what we were talking about, right? And you sent out the paperwork, okay.
Okay, so everybody's clear on what we're doing here?
So I guess so moved, what Walter just informed us.
Yeah, we're going to assume that you're going to get it right, Walter. So moved. And then do we have
I know Matt has the motion in front of him because he follows along.
You have the motion, Matt?
Well, I'll move to accept the proposed changes to the Selectmen's guidelines for, no, wait a minute. I got to do this wrong. I'm going to get it wrong.
Building permits on Class 6 roads to the Selectmen's guidelines.
Ooh,
so motion to the Selectmen's guidelines for clarification building permits on Class 6 roads.
So who's making the motion and who's seconding?
Tim's making the motion. I'll second it.
Okay, great. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Pam, how do you vote?
Yes.
Matt,
Yes.
Beth,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
and Hal is yes. Okay.
It's all in the note taking.
Yes, I've learned that in the past. Okay, next up for discussion, we had brought up earlier the ethics policy, and then Walter just sent out more recently the job description. And so I'm wondering what's the board's pleasure on this? Do we want to take another couple weeks to review these things? Or are there some specific things that we want to discuss tonight?
I
Matt?
haven't personally had a chance to look at the job description.
Yeah.
So my preference would be to kick it 2 weeks.
Yeah. I'm seeing a lot of nods on that. Walter?
I asked many times, like when I put my hat in to be selectman, if there's any rules and regulations, and everybody kept sending me, no, there's nothing. And all of a sudden I get a six-page thing of stuff. So let's take some more time.
Yeah, I've been putting check marks where you've been violating, so.
Yeah. Well, mine's like a massacre. It's all red, so.
The one thing that I think also would benefit with the delay is that I did see in the job description that the select board needs to be on the planning board, the budget committee, and I believe zoning and one other one, quote, in ex officio, which in my mind means we do not vote.
Ooh.
And
right there, ex
I don't know
officio.
if that's correct. I think we're supposed to vote per the RSA. So Walter, can you clarify?
I don't think that's 100% accurate. I think what ex officio typically means is you're not allowed to hold office in those particular boards. You're not allowed to chair. But typically the statute will specify those positions, and they will indicate whether it's a voting position or not.
Okay, so if you could clarify that, because ex officio, maybe I have the definition wrong, but we need to make sure that people know whether we should vote or not.
Yeah.
You basically, you hold that position as a result of the position that you hold, the other position that you hold, basically.
Oh, okay, that's the meaning of ex officio, not whether or not we vote?
Right.
Okay, well then it's just, I didn't know the definition.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're not allowed to hold a position within that particular board, and you're there as a representative by statute from the select board to the planning board or to the budget committee, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay, but it does mean that we're our true member of the board, therefore, and we vote.
I believe unless it says contrary in the statute for that particular board or position.
Okay, let's just verify that. Tim and then Pam.
Like, Pam is a member of the zoning board. Okay, go ahead, Pam, if you want to say go ahead.
Yeah,
So-
it was the same question probably, Tim, is that I'm a serving member of the zoning board, and I'm vice chairman. So, and I'm over here on the selectmen. So is that a conflict, or would I have to give up the vice chairman?
Is she voting for Pam Sanderson, town resident, on the zoning board? And she not making any,
Okay.
We don't have to have someone from our board being on the zoning board.
Well, planning board, but it also says for the zoning board.
It's the zoning board here too.
Yeah.
It's zoning.
Planning,
We've
zoning,
never-
and budget.
We
I don't
never had
think we
someone
have
before on
to.
the zoning board. That's why I'm asking.
Right. Well, this is the whole reason for the.
You signed the back paper, Beth. You should know.
Hey, I'm already on 4 committees. Leave me alone.
Yeah, personal.
No, the 5 selectmen signed this, so.
So, yeah, so I think maybe we need some, Walter, what do you think? How does that work? Pam was on the zoning board. She got a select board. Did she need to give up her, quote, position on the zoning board and now become the ex officio member of the zoning board as a select board member?
And voting.
So as far as the position on the zoning board, that's not prescribed in statute like the planning board, okay?
Oh.
So it doesn't say there shall be a representative from the zoning board.
Okay.
This was something that the select board determined when they made the rules for the board. Okay. Now, I don't believe those are considered to be incompatible offices, okay? So I think it would be fine for Pam to serve as a representative of the zoning board, but she should be appointed as a member and hold a member position because there is no statute that allows her to be a member as a representative to the Board of Selectmen. Again, unlike the planning board.
Okay, so I might be misreading, but I thought the job description also said zoning board ex officio.
That's what this says right here, yeah.
Yeah.
I think we need to fix that.
Yeah, okay, so I guess the thing, we got a couple things to work out. It'd be better to wait a couple weeks before we try to deal with this.
Yeah, again, it's not a position that was prescribed in statute, okay?
Okay.
It's a position that the board at the time that created the rules for the select board wanted to have,
Okay.
okay?
So we'll read it with that point in mind then, and we can ask some more questions at the next meeting. So I think there's a general consensus here. We're gonna table this till the next meeting, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, we need to look into Pam a little bit more.
Yeah.
You know, get the microscope out.
And you know what, Tim? Apparently you have me even longer now.
That's right.
Okay. Okay.
This could last forever.
Well, no, I think the legislature only went through June, so.
No, they could always vote again.
Yeah. Okay, moving on. I guess we already talked about the expenditure report. Is there anything else to add there, Cheryl or Walter?
No, I think that was basically what we wanted to note from my standpoint of view, and unless Cheryl has something else to add.
No, I don't have anything else to add.
Great. Okay, well, thanks again. Okay, then we're going to move on to, this is a pretty exciting part of the program here. Task manager. Do you have like special music to play before you present this, Walter?
Da-da-da.
Hey, wow. Okay.
I was hoping to roll this out obviously around the first of the year, but it's now the first go, and again, as I mentioned previously, this is really just a kind of a roadmap to get to the tasks that the board and I are working on to make sure that they don't fall off the earth on us, and also to make sure that there's definitive dates and times and tasks and responsible parties for the different functions that some of them are standard, some of them are unique, obviously, to the board. So that's something that typically I like to review it at every board meeting. If board members have, obviously, if the board agrees, discusses a particular task to be added, I add it after every meeting, and with a reasonable completion date, and whoever's going to be assigned to work on the task to get it completed.
Questions or comments on the task manager? Go ahead, Pam.
Was this a paper in our packet or a separate mailing?
It's a spreadsheet in your packet. It's a spreadsheet form.
It's fairly far down in the pack.
Should be right after the finance report.
Page 45 in the electronic version.
It's almost the end.
Yeah.
So while she's looking for that, Walter, I guess I have two questions or comments. I guess the comment is there seems to be a fair number of high priority items, and I just wonder if you need to reconsider and really prioritize the really high ones, and then put the other the mediums and stuff. How do you feel about that?
Well, rather than the kind of the priority level assignment, it's most important, I think, is the projected completion date. That's
Okay.
really how I prioritize things.
Okay.
They're high in terms of things that of a level of importance, but the key thing is the date, and that's anticipated that the project is due. And so that's how I prioritize things.
Okay. Okay. So we'll take a look at that, scrutinize it some more under that basis. I guess the related question I have is, how do you want to handle meshing non-select board items? So for example, the planning board and the CIP, and you coordinating or help pulling together the CIP numbers, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a different entity involved. How do you want to handle that? Do you want like Bob Strobel to talk to you? Do you want it to come through the select board rep to the planning board? Do you have a preference on that, or?
It really doesn't. It doesn't matter if I'm asked or required to be engaged in the process. Then I'm going to add it to the taskmaster, so that number one, it communicates to the board, what's being done, and number two, it's usually going to involve at least one board member or staff member, to be involved in that as well, like Linda on things like land use and that type of thing.
So are you planning on reviewing this as part of your TA report each week?
No, I'll typically review it just at the board meetings, monthly, the 2 monthly board meetings.
Okay. Okay, so maybe part of your TA report then at the board meeting.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sorry.
Other folks have questions?
Looks great. Thank you.
Yeah, I think this is something that'll really help us. So thank you.
It has a ta-da. It's got to be good, right?
It's obviously important that the items that get added on here are functional items that I know need to be done for the board, but
right.
Also that the board has, by consensus agrees it should be added to the list as well as a project, and what the completion dates ought to be and so forth. So what I'm saying, Hal, is don't send me a list tomorrow to add on to the.
Do I look like the type of person that would do that? I think so, yeah. I'll call you instead.
That's fine.
Okay. Any other questions on that? Again, Walter, thank you. That really looks good. Okay, next is a request back to the treasurer for some funding. So you want to explain that, Walter, and walk us through what we need to do?
So I believe the board's aware we had some discussions about paying the final August bill for the contractor that did the mowing at the cemeteries. That was done out of the general fund, and my understanding, it should be reimbursed to the general fund from the perpetual care funds, and that this request will go to the trustees for a reimbursement request in the amount of $1,833.34.
I misspoke. I said treasurer. You're right. It's trustees of the trust funds.
Please say it again.
So what Walter's looking for.
No, the amount.
Oh, I'm sorry, Pam.
$1,833.34.
Thank you.
So what we're looking for is a motion to get reimbursed, to request that we get reimbursed by the trustees of the trust fund for the mowing bill that we just paid, $1,833.34.
I will make that motion for reimbursement from the trustees of the trust fund for $1,833.34 for the cemetery mowing.
Great, thank you. And we have a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote. Matt?
Yes.
Beth?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Pam?
Yes.
Hal is yes. Okay, thank you for covering that. That's the end of the agenda for the main session. Walter, you said we need a non-public session. So before we wrap up, let's just ask if, I see Betsy's on the line here. Betsy, if you're interested in speaking, just give us the reaction symbol or thumbs up or something. Okay, I'm not seeing that, so let's just work out the logistics. Matt, will you handle the Zoom meeting from this point forward, please?
Certainly, as soon as all the recording and everything gets turned off. Are we expecting to take any votes when we come out? Do we want Paul to stick around?
Walter, do you expect we need to take any votes when we come out?
I don't believe so.
Okay, so if that's the case, then let's see. I'm looking for a motion to go into non-public for personnel. Do I have that motion?
RSA, what, A, B, C, D.
Oh, geez, I knew you'd ask. Cool.
Would
Want to make it official.
it would be A and B.
Well, personnel is A.
A and B tonight, it looks like.
Yes.
Okay. So do I have that motion?
So moved.
Thank you. And a second, please.
Second, Tim spent too long thinking about it. He missed his chance.
Okay. So this is the way it's going to work. We're going to vote on that. Walter, go ahead.
Sorry, I would like to include the highway foreman for one of the topics at the beginning.
It's still personnel. It's still personnel.
B, hiring, under the hiring, yes.
Okay. So we'll include Chris. So once we vote to go into non-public, then Matt, I'm going to ask you to make sure we only have the folks mentioned in the meeting. So we had a motion and a second to go into non-public for 91 A and B. Beth, how do you vote?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Pam?
Yes.
Matt?
Yes.
And Hal is yes. Okay, so at this point, Paul, you're done for the evening. Betsy, thank you for watching, and thank you for to the folks that are watching this on YouTube.
All right, I'll shut off the YouTube and pass it over to Matt.